Hi everyone. I'm just gonna jump in here real quick and record my intro to this video because when I'm sitting down here to edit, I realized that I never actually recorded an intro video. This is my end of month recap for all the books that I've read and quick summaries over all of them. For the second half of August, I believe there's 7 books in this video. Only one of them I didn't finish, but pretty good I think so far. So stick around and check out the books that I read for the last half of August. Thanks. Today, our first book that we're going to be talking about is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. So this book I checked out from my local library. I've seen it for quite a while. I know it's been out. And I decided to finally read it. And boy, I got some thoughts. This book's about Olive Torres, who is forced to be around her brother-in-law's brother, who she does not like. Her twin sister Amy is married to Dane. Right at the beginning of the book, they get married, and then Dane's brother Ethan is who Olive does not like. All right, so characters. But so during the wedding, there's some bad food at the reception, and everybody gets sick except for Olive and Ethan. And so who do they decide to send on the non-refundable honeymoon trip? Olive and Ethan. And they're forced to be around each other even though they hate each other. They can't stand each other. You come to find out later that it was all kind of due to a misunderstanding, but that is just Olive's bad luck. That's kind of how she describes everything that happens in her life in this book. It's just the bad luck that she has. Eventually they start to realize, oh, like maybe you're not so bad. Oh, maybe it was all just misunderstanding, and then maybe it was sabotage-ish things going on in a way. They kind of have this animosity towards each other, and then they realize, wait, okay, so we're gonna try to get along. And then they do. And then, it's a romance book. You know what's gonna happen, especially when they're forced to be around each other like that. So it was predictable in that sense. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Okay. Yeah, I have some thoughts. First of all, how is Olive suddenly like, oh my gosh, Ethan's the best thing ever. Wait, maybe I like him. Maybe he's not so bad. He's been treating you like dirt. From what she describes him treating her like, I wouldn't want to like this guy. I don't know that there's anything he could do to make me like him. And especially, fall in love with him. You know what I'm saying? Puts all that aside. Okay, maybe it was a misunderstanding, but then, I don't know. It's not all that believable. The other thing is, at one point in time, during the book, something happens between Olive and her sister's new husband. Now, nothing big happens, but everyone starts calling Olive a liar, and even Ethan calls her a liar. Amy, her own sister, calls her a liar, and it's like, why would someone call them a liar for that? I don't want to give any spoilers for this book, but after everything that they figured out, that caused them to not like each other in the beginning, why would Ethan all of a sudden just go, oh no, I don't believe her again? I don't know, man. We don't like Ethan. Ethan's icky. We don't like him. He's not cool. The other problem too is this book could have ended probably 100 pages before it actually did. And when I got to that point in the book where I'm like, this is a good ending, and then there's still 100 pages left, I'm like, this is a problem. I don't want to read anymore. And yeah, no, you could have chopped off the last roughly 100 pages of this book and been just fine. Because it's like, oh, here's a misunderstanding. Oh, now we're fine again. Oh, wait, another thing comes crashing down. Oh, now we're fine again. And then another one. It's like, okay, this is exhausting. This is going back and forth and back and forth. And I did not like Ethan, and I don't really see the chemistry between Olive and Ethan all that much. I enjoyed their witty banter. Don't get me wrong. That was cute in some, cases of the book. But it felt too long. It felt forced and just not the thing that I thought it's not what I was expecting. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. I maybe could even rate it lower than that, I guess. I'm being a little generous because I liked the banter. I think the premise of the book was funny and cute and witty, kind of like a rom-com sort of movie setting, but it just, the execution was not there. So yeah, that's my thoughts for this one. Next book that I am here to review is Ukulele of Death by E.J. Copperman. So I didn't really know what to expect for this book when I first picked it up at the library, but it was cute. So this book follows, wait for it, Fran and Ken Stein. They are not quite human. They were put together by their parents, who were scientists in a lab. I knew all of this when I picked up this book, and I did not pick up the whole Frankenstein joke until way too late. It's absolutely cute. I love that part of it. The book itself, so it's about Fran and Ken Stein, who they don't really know their parents. Their parents are on the run because of the science that they use to put them together. And they run a detective agency where they help people find their birth parents. And so this woman comes to the agency and says, hey, I need help finding my birth father. I've never met him before. He collects old stringed instruments, and there's a ukulele that's going up for sale, and I think he's going to want to go for it. So maybe if you track the sale of that, then we can figure out who he is if he does buy it. So it, it's kind of starts off as like a mystery, and then all of a sudden there's a murder, and now it's like a murder mystery kind of thing, and it's like this whole ukulele is at the center of it. You come to find out that there's actually things involving their parents with this mystery as well, and there's a little more to it than, what seems at the very beginning. I am not a super big fan of the writing style. Something about it just made it hard to read, but it was a relatively short book. I got through it, and I thought the story in and of itself it was a cute story. So for that, I rated it a 4-star. I was going to rate it a 3-star or 3.5 star, but I mean, just for the whole Frankenstein joke alone, I gave it a little extra. I rated it a 4-star. At the very end, last 20-ish pages of this book is where it really turned around for me, because how it all came together at the very end. It was, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but it did end very well. I really liked it. There were certain characters in this book that came in and out at random times, and you come to find out that they had a different name, or they were actually somebody else, or they thought it got a little confusing at times. I did not appreciate that, but I think it's just kind of meant to be a confusing aspect to the book. The other thing, we were reminded that Fran is super tall and super strong for a woman every other page, and it got to be annoying at times. It's we get it. Half of your personality is your height. I wish I was, 6 feet tall too, but I'm not. So maybe if I was 6 feet tall, that would be part of my personality. I don't know. I'd hope not. I'd hope I have more of a personality than that. We were reminded every 5 seconds that she is 6 feet tall. The other thing too is there were a few contradictions. At one point in time, it said that Ken can't cook, and then another time it said that he can cook and that he cooks to clear his head. So some of those things I could kind of look past. And overall, the book was cute. I enjoyed it. 4 stars out of 5. My next book was an ebook that I borrowed from my local library, so I don't actually have a physical copy here, but I will put something up. It is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I actually heard about this book originally from a fellow YouTuber that talked about it and about how cute it was, and it was a short read, and it's actually a series, and it kind of delves into the fantasy realm as well. Half a Soul is about a girl named Theodora Eddings who is fairy cursed. She was caught by a fairy when she was a child who attempted to take her soul, but actually took half of her soul, and so now because of that she has 2 different colored eyes, and she doesn't have emotions like everyone else does. She experiences them, but they're all clouded in a very dense fog is kind of the best way to describe it, I think, where she knows that she should feel something but doesn't know what she should feel, and doesn't feel like everyone else does. She just doesn't have the same thought process as everyone else around her, and so some people find her hard to deal with. But her cousin absolutely loves her, and her cousin is looking for a husband and convinces her mother to take them to London and to look for a husband during that season. It's kind of like Regency era, I believe, like Bridgerton kind of era, where they go to these balls and they dance, and it reminded me a lot of that. Her cousin is like determined to meet the Lord Sorcier, who supposedly who she thinks can help Theodora. Theodora goes by Dora, so I'm going to refer to her just as Dora for the rest of this review. Dora goes out on her own, meets the Lord Sorcier, and realizes, like, this guy ain't cool. We don't like him. But her cousin's determined. So her cousin tells the Lord Sorcier about what's going on with Dora, and he reluctantly agrees to help. And so Dora tries to help her cousin find a husband, and also tries to work with the Lord Sorcier to figure out what's going on with her. And also there is a curse that's placed on the city and is preying on children. So she decides, like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to help. She starts realizing, like, she actually has some powers because of this curse. Like, she has, like, magic that she can use, like, a little bit. She begins to experience more feelings, deeper feelings, and then eventually she meets the other half of herself. So it is a very cute historical fantasy. Dora does some adorable things in this book. This book was a very, very fun read. I absolutely flew through it, and I am very much looking forward to the next book in this series. I'm going to check it out soon. I love the Lord Sorcier character. At first, you know, you don't like him, and then you come find out later, like, oh wait, he's actually a really good guy. And of course Dora falls in love with him, and like through the book you start to hope that these two can actually get together. It was written very, very well, that part was, and how he accepted Dora even with her lack of emotions that she had, or how she experienced the world differently, and he still loved her even though she was different. And I just thought it was very well written. It was adorable. This one is truly a 5 stars out of 5 stars for me. I absolutely loved it. There's a discussion on different class levels that were found in England at the time and how they were treated differently, and it discusses the issues with that. It also talks about how certain people perceive the world and process their feelings differently than others do. It gives you a view from a different perspective. It's a very powerful one without coming across directly as this is what it's doing. You know, when you think back on it and you realize, like, hey, this book actually has a lot deeper meanings to certain things than others. So I really appreciated that. I absolutely found it adorable, and I'm very much looking forward to the next book in this series. So I was not sure that I was going to talk about this book because I actually did not finish it. Mermaids in Paradise by Lydia Millet, and I thought that, you know, oh, this looks cute, and it seemed like a little bit of like a mystery kind of thing, a comedy sort of book, which just seems right up my alley. Within the first dozen pages, the book was making jokes that did not seem funny to me. But when I like read the first dozen pages and it's already kind of like making me upset, I'm like, I'm not gonna even go further. No. So I put this book down way earlier than I normally would. I just didn't find it funny. I didn't like it. I'm not gonna rate it because I didn't get that far to like really see what the book's even about. Alright, so up next is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This is not my first Riley Sager book that I've ever read, but I think I enjoyed this one a little bit more than the last one. The last one was really convoluted and got really confusing very fast, but I enjoyed this one. So, quick summary. So it's the 90s, and Charlie Jordan is trying her hardest to get away from school because she understandably needs a break. There's a killer that's killed 3 people on campus and still has not been caught. Her best friend being one of them. And this is something that Charlie struggles very much with. She's not coping well and decides that I need a break from school. Rather than waiting on her boyfriend to be able to take her home that weekend, she decides to go to the ride board and try to find a way to get home with somebody else. She meets a man named Josh Baxter, who is also trying to leave school for reasons of his own, and they agree to go on the trip together because he's heading the same direction she is. But she goes and everything seems fine. She trusts this guy. Everything seems to be checking out. And then little discrepancies in his story start to happen, and you kind of see where she's like, wait a second, I don't really know this guy, and I got in a car with this guy. Not the smartest move, especially with a killer on the loose. Like, that's kind of the gist of it. She's got to figure out how to survive the night with this unknown man that she's writing with, who doesn't seem to have his story straight. My thoughts for this book. Charlie is low-key one of like the worst protagonists I've ever read in a book, because there were so many instances in this book where she could have just, gotten away from the situation, been fine. She didn't. Why? I don't know. Because story, I guess. And there were times where I'm like, yo, dude, come on. You should know better. Like, there's a killer on the loose and you're with a guy you don't know. Let's put two and two together, shall we? But I will say, I was pleasantly surprised by the ending of this book. Like, I thought I had it figured out. I thought, okay, this is it. But it was not. It very much was not. So I don't want to give any spoilers to the end of this book, because it took a hard left turn. If you like thrillers and you don't like knowing what's going to happen at the end, this would be a good book. A few critiques for this book, other than Charlie just not having an ounce of common sense. This story was supposed to take place over the span of about 6-ish hours, and there is a lot that happens in supposedly this 6-hour time span that seems very, very hard to believe. I did like the fact that it kind of played like a movie. Like, each chapter was like kind of giving you a scene, like interior of the car, at night. Charlie was obsessed with movies. That was her thing. And she related to movies, especially old movies that she watched, like with her grandmother. And so I did enjoy that kind of play on it. So overall, those are my thoughts on it. I did enjoy the book. I'm going to go ahead and rate it a 4 out of 5 stars. Maybe a little generous for it, but that twist at the end, I really wasn't expecting. And then I don't want to give any spoilers, but the very, very end, like the very last chapter, the way it finished, I was just like, I love it. I loved it so much. Yes, I don't want to give any spoilers. You have to read it if you want to know. It is going to be Mother-Daughter Murder Night by Nina Simon. So this book was an audiobook that I borrowed from the local library, and I listened to it like on my way back and forth to work. So it was kind of like a background kind of book. So at first I was like, I don't know about this one, because there were certain characters in there that just I did not like very much. But it grew on me, and by the end of it I was like, okay, this is a cute mystery, like a little cozy mystery kind of book, and I absolutely loved it. So a quick summary of this book. It follows the story of 3 generations of Rubicon women. Lana's the main character, and after a cancer diagnosis, she moves in with her daughter Beth and Beth's daughter Jacqueline, who goes by Jack, to the Monterey Bay area of California, where Beth and Jack live. One night, Lana is awake, she can't sleep, and she sees somebody dumping something suspiciously body-shaped into the slough that's behind their house. And she doesn't think much of it. She's like, well, there's farms nearby, maybe it's just a farmer. She goes on. Well, a couple days later, Jack finds a body during one of her kayak tours that she gives. It's like a little business. She's like a 15-year-old. She's in high school, and so she works at a local kayak business to earn some extra money. So she finds this body, and the police initially think, well, maybe it was someone from your tour, and that sends Lana down this whole path of like, I am solving this murder because I'm going to clear Jack's name. Turns out the cops don't really think it was Jack eventually, but then Lana's like, well, I'm not giving up. I got to figure out who committed this murder. The story, goes through all that and all the links, the crazy links that Lana is willing to go to solve this murder. I will say, like, some of my thoughts on this. I initially was not a fan of this book, mainly because of Lana. She is very, very headstrong. She gets what she wants. She gets her way, no matter what. And some people are like that, absolutely. you know, and there's nothing wrong with going and, you know, getting what you want, especially, you know, strong woman and all. But there were certain times where she was just so disrespectful to Beth, you know, and not treating her own daughter like an adult who has her own kid, that I was just like, man, I cannot stand her. But I will say, the book did redeem itself partway through, because you kind of see why that relationship was fractured, and then you start to see it mend, at least the starts of it mending. I'm happy with the ending and kind of where that relationship laid at that point. Because of all that, I went ahead and rated this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It was very good for what it was. Like I said, a very nice, cozy mystery, and I loved that. And I think it'd be like a good refresher, because it's a standalone book, so it'd be like a good refresher after something dark or after a series, if you're interested in something like that and cozy mysteries are your thing. Our next and final book for this review is going to be All the Little Raindrops by Mia Sheridan. This book was dark. It was very dark. I will put that out there right now. It goes into topics that I was not expecting. Maybe I should have looked into it a little more. Maybe there might have been something at the beginning of the book about it, but honestly, I probably skipped it, not realizing what it was. But yes, it goes into some very, very dark topics, so be warned if, you know, that's something that you are sensitive to. Okay, so quick summary on this book. The two main protagonists are Noelle Meyer and Evan Sinclair. They are teenagers who are kidnapped and kept in cages, and forced to make decisions based on their well-being personally, or like if they're going to sacrifice something so the other person doesn't have to sacrifice, things like that. Apparently it's very similar to what happens in some of the Saw movies, according to other reviews. I don't know. I've never personally watched those movies, so I don't really know too much, but it does get very, very dark right there at the beginning. That's really like the worst of it right there at the beginning. And you find out that these two people, they already kind of have history. They're kind of enemies anyways, because Noelle's mother was having an affair with Evan's father, and Evan's father broke it off, and supposedly Noelle's mother was like this, you know, scorned woman, and he kills her because she was trespassing on their property. It gets confusing, and then like more is added onto it towards the end of the book. I don't want to spoil it, but they're already kind of enemies, but they decide, hey, you know what, we're going to work together, or we're going to try to get out of here. They manage to escape. That's actually not a spoiler. I think pretty sure that is talked about on the like whole synopsis of the book anyways. So they manage to escape. They have to figure out how to deal with life after everything that happened. We jump forward some time. I think it's like 7-8 years. Evan is now a private investigator who is trying to piece together other crimes similar to theirs to see if they can find a pattern, or see if he can find a pattern, and try to bring the people that did this to them to justice, because nothing ever came from the investigation. And obviously you don't want something like that to continue on. So he's doing what he can, decides to talk to Noelle and see if there's any more that she remembers, or he wants to talk to her and see, I mean, really how she's doing, because they went through a lot together. There's more to it. I don't want to get too far into it. But now they are trying to come to terms with everything that happened, and then their feelings for each other. I'm gonna find out it's actually a very kind of dark romance book. I was not expecting that either. That's like, I want to say, that's most of what I want to say for like the summary. My thoughts on this book: it was very dark, darker than I was expecting, darker than most things that I read. Again, maybe that's on me. I should have looked into it a little bit more before I read it, but I am very much a let's judge this book based on the cover in that sort of way. I'm like, this is a cool looking cover, I want to read it, and here we are. It was a well-written book when it comes to like the romance aspects of it. The investigative portion of the book got very dry. I did enjoy Evan and Noelle's connection that they had later outside of the abduction. That I think was very well written. So I mean, that's pretty much it. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars, maybe a bit generous. I really enjoyed the main characters there. I really enjoyed Noelle and Evan, and how much they were determined to stick together, and how much they were willing to sacrifice for each other, you know, just to help the other get out of the situation alive. I don't know if I'm going to read anything this dark again for quite a while. It was a standalone book. It's not like a series or anything. Overall, I would say it was decent. So yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. So thank you so much for sticking around and checking out all of my book reviews for the last half of August. I've got a whole list coming up for the first half of September, and that video should be out around middle of September if everything works out right. I'm taking all of this a day at a time because I have a lot going on in my personal life right now. I will be back as soon as I can with another batch of books, but yeah, let me know if you guys are interested in any of these books that I talked about today, or if you've read any, and give me your thoughts on those. So if there's any books you want me to check out, please let me know in the comments below, and like, subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.